everybody. Welcome to the session. I'm Minkyong Kim, a Vice President in Samsung Electronics. Today, I'm going to talk about how we take the advantage of our cloud platform to enable data-driven AI services, including Bixby, on our smart appliances. Okay? So, I'm sure everybody knows what IoT is. IoT stands for Internet of Things. What's important here is that we need to interconnect all things, right? And including appliances and small things such as light bulbs. And if you look at the, there are so many different areas of IoT. And today I'm going to focus on the connected homes or home IoT, okay? So in order to, the keyword from the previous slide was the interconnect all things. And in order to interconnect, there could be two different options. The first one is connecting the devices directly, otherwise also called D2D communication, right? And the second option is connecting these devices through cloud. And one of the issues at IoT, which has been preventing the advances of how it actually be present in all your houses, was that there has been so much silos, right? The cluster of devices couldn't really talk to the other cluster of devices. So what's really important is to follow a standard so that all the devices can talk to each other. So Samsung has been heavily involved in what's called the Open Connectivity Foundation. So in the previous version of the OCF, we've been focusing on the D2D communication, but in the current version of the OCF, we've been focusing on how to communicate through the cloud. So right now, what we are doing is that for all our appliances and also the smartphone and then the TVs, we are following the OCF standard to communicate through the SmartThings cloud. And it's not just the Samsung who are involved in this activity, but also Intel and Microsoft and many other companies are involved in the standard body. And there is an open source community for this, which actually implements this standard, which is called IoTVD. So if you are a device maker, please check out this standard so that you can join the ecosystem. Okay? So as I mentioned earlier, we are using OCF to connect all our devices to the SmartThings cloud. And this is an open ecosystem. So that's why we intentionally removed the word Samsung from the cloud, because we want other device manufacturers, device makers to join this cloud so that you can take advantage of all the devices that's already been connected to this cloud, right? So I just want to make sure that you see that all Samsung appliances with Wi-Fi are already connected to SmartThings, and then by joining it, you can also be part of this bigger ecosystem. And then it's not just the appliances, but also there are many things, third-party things that are already connected to the SmartThings. You can check out smartthings.com to see the entire list of things that's been supported. Okay? And by joining this ecosystem, it's not just the cloud, but also there is one app called the SmartThings app, right? And by using this, what you can do is that from just one app, you can control all the devices that are connected to the SmartThings cloud. And for the Galaxy S9, it's already been preloaded, so anybody who owns the Galaxy S9 already has it. Otherwise, you can also download this app. And all the smart appliances and then the things that you already have will actually appear, and then you can connect and then do a lot of fun things. And talking about the fun things, it's really trivial to automate the entire house, right? Because the SmartThings cloud has the home allows the home automation because it has the rule engine. You can create your own rules, such as set the sprinklers to come on at sunrise, or turn off all the lights at 11 p.m., things like that. So these are very easy to do because once you go into your app, you will see all the devices that you own, and then you can actually make the condition. And if this condition meets, then you can actually specify the actions that needs to be taken. And this is very easy that everybody can actually do, okay? And another thing is that we have the API that allows other people to connect from the different clouds. So if you already have your own cloud setup, or if you have some other services that you want to connect, such as you can be running another service where you have some kind of subscriptions, and then it allows all the appliances to control those things or do some other fun things with it, right? So you can use this API and connect it. And one example of this would be connecting with the smart speakers, right? So Samsung Robo Vacuum Cleaner was the first vacuum cleaner that was connected through the Amazon Echo. So if you own an Amazon Echo, you can control Samsung vacuum cleaner, turn it on, turn off, things like that. So, and it's not just, that was the first one that we did in 2016, and that was the first in the market, right? And then now all Samsung appliances with Wi-Fi, you can actually control it through the Amazon Echo speakers. Okay, so now I'm going to change a little the gear and then maybe think about what customers like nowadays, right? This is something that I took from the LifeWire magazine on the web. And then, so the first thing that user wants is they control it remotely, right? That's already checked. We can do it through the SmartThings app. The second one is that people want the system to know what I like. Do I like 72 Fahrenheit or 74 Fahrenheit? And then I wish it can just automatically set up the temperature, things like that. So that's the second one. The third one is that I hate to come into the house where it's so hot, right? So right before I actually come in, can it, start the air conditioner automatically, and then, so that whenever I come in, it feels really nice to be home, right? So what we are doing in order to realize that vision is that something that we call the welcome cooling. So what it does is that, from somebody who only has the air conditioner, I have no idea where the user is, right? So what we are doing, but then we are in good luck because all the things are connected through the SmartThings, right? So by using the geofencing mechanism that's already been running on your phone, we can actually make this kind of a rule and then make this automatic, meaning that if you are close to your house, so we can get the notification out, and then user can actually automatically set the air conditioner before they arrive, right? So that when you come into the house, it should be very nice to just come in. So that's a new feature that we added this year in 2018 for Korean market. Okay, the second one is that I want the air conditioner to know what my preferences are, right? So what we are doing is that after getting the consent from the user, we are collecting the data, how each user is using that device or the appliance, right? And then, so if the outside temperature is 80 degrees, I typically set up the temperature to 74, something like that, right? Or there are so many different wind modes. I hate to have, strong wind blowing on my face. So there is a mode that's called windless mode. So it feels like you are in a cave kind of thing instead of having the direct wind. So I love that one. So it actually learns, by looking at how I'm using my air conditioner, it knows that what my preferred temperature is depending on what the outside temperature is, and then also the preferred, mode of the wind. So it actually runs over time, right? But then what do I want to do? How do I want to interact after that, right? It's not just the mode, I want this automatic mode. What's going to be really interesting is that I just want to interact with my air conditioner with something like, I'm just interacting with somebody else, right? And then I just want to communicate how I'm feeling, meaning that, it's just a little hot in here. That's how I'm feeling. I'm not really telling the air conditioner to change it to a certain mode or to change to the temperature. That's not what I want, right? I'm just telling the air conditioner that it's just a little hot in here. So upon receiving that command, what it does is that it actually knows my preference, right? And that it will lower the temperature to the preferred temperature, and then the wind mode based on my, past experiences. So we actually build a new model, customize the model for every device, and then that's running on the cloud, okay? So now I call this user-centric interaction. So since we are at it, let's look at what other things are, our devices are capable of. For air conditioner, what we can do is that, I want to switch the windless mode, which is the cave-like mode, when the temperature, the room has cooled down, right? So this is something that you couldn't really do with the remote control. This is kind of an event-driven execution of an action, right? But then you can actually say it, and then I register the rule in the back end. Sorry. And then when the temperature reaches certain temperature, it's going to automatically change it. Okay? Or the issue with the manual is that I always store it in a safe place, and I always forget where that safe place is. That's no longer an issue for Samsung appliances. What you can do is that you can just ask the appliance, right, how to do certain things. So how do I change the air filter? So, and then it's going to answer, give you the answer in the voice, through the voice, okay? And then for Family Hub, you can also ask the weather and also order a milk, and then maybe Amazon will deliver it to your doorstep, okay? And the other thing is that, maybe sometimes if you buy a very high-end washing machine, you may be overwhelmed by the number of buttons that you find on the panel, right? So what we're trying to do is that instead of really directing user which buttons to push, what we want to say is that, I want to just let the washing machine know what my intention is, meaning that, I just put in the jeans, what's the best way to wash it? And then it's automatically based on your intention of what kind of garments you want to wash. It's going to set up the, mode, and then maybe the number of rinse cycle, temperature, water temperature, things like that automatically. And then it's going to ask you back, I have set it for the optimal, I have set it to the optimal setting for the jeans, and then should I start? And then you can just say yes, and then it's good to go, okay? And so, so we already have earlier version of Bixby out in the market, and then the new Bixby is going into many of the appliances this coming year. And I'm sure you've been seeing at the keynote and other sessions that if you go to the bixbydevelopers.com, you can download this Bixby Developer Studio, right? And the one thing that I want to mention here is that when you build a capture consists conceptually, there are three different things. One is about the models, another is UI component, and then the natural language component, right? And then if you build a capsule for a smartphone, you can reuse it. What it means is that you may want to optimize the UI part of it if the device type or the screen is very different. But then if it's similar, the ratio is similar, such as between the smartphone and then the Family Hub, you can just reuse the UI component, and then it's automatically adjusted for you. Okay? So how do I use it for multiple devices? Right? So if we look at the details, there is something called target, right? Target specified what kind of device it is for, and then the locale, right? And then for the smartphone, it's called the Bixby Mobile English US Market, right? So that's the name for the target. And then for Family Hub, for the US version, we have Bixby Fridge, English US, and for Korean version, Bixby Fridge, Korean, KR. Right? So these are the targets. So if we build a capsule, and then if you want to publish it for many devices, you can just simply add these targets to your capture, and then it will automatically populate it for all these different devices. So I think that's real benefit of using the Samsung, because we have so many different type of devices, including appliances, TV, and then the smartphone. Okay, so I think the entire list of the target will become public at the time when we open the market. So you should have that list. So this is not the final format, but then you should have the list later on. Okay. So let me introduce a little more about the apps, because you may be interested in building some interesting apps. Family Hub already have many apps, including some of the apps are about managing the food, such as the shopping list. So you can keep the shopping list and then order it online, or you can also do, and then there are a lot of many apps related to entertainment, such as listening to music or watching the video, things like that. So the first step is to go to developer.com and then sign up for the partnership. So it's not really open at the moment. So you can have to actually send a request form, and then we'll review it, and then you can get the SDK and then all the details how to develop it. So basically, there are two different big types of applications that you can develop. One is the Tizen native app, and then the second one is the web apps, web application. For the native apps, you can do things that's related to, that's very tightly coupled with the devices, such as controlling the temperature of the refrigerator, things like that. But then if you are already familiar with the Tizen, you can build that way. If you're not, maybe another option will be actually build your applications as a web applications. So the example are the OSPs, Pandora, or the Ubers are all built as the web apps. Okay, and then if you already have a web apps that's compatible with the Chromium, you can actually reuse it, and it should be not a problem to deploy it on Family Hub. Okay, and what we provide as a testing platform besides the SDK is there's something called the remote test lab. What it means is that by using this tool, there are actually family hubs, physical family hubs running, both in US and Korea. And then if it's very related to tightly integrated, if you are developing some kind of features that's tightly related to the devices, you can actually use these features and then deploy your thing on the physical machine and get the result back. Okay? So up to now, it was more through the partnership, and then we had to get the app and then deploy it on our side. But then we are actually opening the App Store for the Family Hub, and then it's coming next year, this coming year. Okay, so it's the Tizen-based App Store. So you can, through the partnership agreement, you can upload your app and then maintain it and upgrade it. So, and then for the user can, just choose whatever apps they want to download. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of a taste of what we are doing with the computer vision. Okay, so now it's Family Hub again. So Family Hub has 3 cameras looking inside. So what you can do is that from the app, so when you're at the grocery store, you're never sure whether you ran out of eggs or you ran out of milk, things like that, right? So this is one of the, service that I use very often. So I look at the, what's in my fridge remotely at the grocery shop, and then say, oh, I need to buy more, eggs, things like that. And currently what we are, and then, I talked to the people in the academia and said, finding the object recognition is something that's really easy. But then the funny thing is that if you do it very nicely, arrange all those food items very nicely, it may be easy. But then, people don't tend to organize their fridge very, neatly. So this is more like my house, right? And it becomes really a hard problem. But then what we want to do is that we kind of want to, know by tracking your food items, right? Whether you ran out of your chocolate milk, because my son always have to have chocolate milk, and then really alert or give you the notification, it's time to order another carton of chocolate milk, right? So that's what we're trying to do, because right now, And then what was a little challenging basically was that in terms of if you want to allow users to make an order, it's not just the type of food ingredients that you need to know, but then you actually need to know whether you want brand 1 versus brand 2, or is it white, chocolate milk versus skim milk, or whatever, right? So those details are very important once you are talking about e-commerce. So we had to actually, those are the kind of challenges, and we had to separate between the fresh ingredients recognition and then the packaged food recognition. And then once we do it, we have many food-related services, including Foodly, shopping lists, recipes, grocery shopping, things like that, because depending on what you have in your fridge, we can recommend recipes using those ingredients. Okay, but then the innovation never stops, right? So I'm going to introduce a new appliances that's been introduced, unfortunately, only in Korea. So this is a new appliance called the air dresser, and this is a closet that airs, steams, dries, and purifies garments. So I'm sure many of you have sweaters and the winter coat, and it's kind of cumbersome to, give it to the dry cleaner and then, get it returned every time it smells weird, right? So what it does is that you can just put it in, and then it feels like it's been already dry cleaned. It's not dry cleaned, it's air cleaned with some, steams, but then it feels really nice. And then this is new appliances that just came out in the Korean market and then became a real big hit. And going back to the computer vision, what we are doing is that we're trying to organize a virtual closet, right? So it's because it's kind of hard to track what kind of clothes you have, and then what will be the right match. I like to wear these pants, but then what will be the right shirt to wear with it? And so, we want to actually do those kind of things and then make the recommendation. What we are currently doing is that we are collaborating with many clothing companies, and then by scanning those barcode that's attached to the garments, we know what kind of material the clothes are, and then we can automatically set the settings for these appliances. So that's the example. Sorry, it's in Korea because we only launched in Korea. Okay. So I think that's it for my talk, and then thank you for coming. So if I'm going to open up for the questions. Can you take it? Yes, I see. I just can't tell who was present with you. Wait, which is it?
So how much behavioral data do you actually store?
How much data?
How much behavioral data, right? I mean, you said that you sort of have this rules engine, right, that sort of dictates how things work, and then what data do you actually keep?
So it's only if you agree. So there are terms and conditions, and then you have to agree before we can collect any data. But then any kind of operation data for the air conditioner, if you set certain temperature or change the mode, wind mode, or for the washing machine cycle, every time you finish washing, we want to know, what kind of washing cycle you actually operated. But then one thing that I didn't really talk about here is that for the appliances, actually more data we are trying to collect more data of the sensors, meaning that, over time, the appliance, so there are many sensors already embedded in appliances. So what we are doing there is that by collecting those sensor data, we can actually know whether something is going to break or something is wrong, things like that. So we are also collecting more of those sensor data to give you a better, services. Okay. But then because of the GDPR and then things like that, you have the option of always deleting your data. So we have we organize it in such a way, so if you send a request to delete any of the data, then we can always perform that one.
Is all the data collect associated with the Samsung account ID?
No, we try to separate it so that it's not trivial actually to associate it with the Samsung account ID and the data. Yeah.
You mentioned we can control devices using Echo, Amazon Echo, right? So as a developer, do I need to write an Echo skill, Amazon skill to control devices, or by default it connects to all devices and control?
No, Amazon Echo was kind of one of the third-party speakers that we already connected. So if you want to join a Samsung SmartThings, cloud ecosystem, you don't really need to do any of those things. So what you have to do is that as a device maker, if you're a device maker, then you need to have the protocol, OCF protocol, compatible with the OCF protocol, so you can communicate with the server side, on the SmartThings cloud. And then the other thing is that for each of devices in the SmartThings app, there is a plugin for each device. So you will have to write your own plugin for your device, and then you can be added to the SmartThings, app, which so many people already have. So it's kind of easy to go into the big ecosystem, very quickly.
So you mentioned that the fridges of people don't usually look like they're not very staged, as in your example here. Could you elaborate a bit more on how you solve that problem from a more technical point of view?
Yeah, so the thing is that if it's staged very nicely, it may have been easier, but then we couldn't really do the and apply existing object recognition, algorithms, because the issue is that, for example, if you have just so it's kind of the problem becomes much easier if you take a photo of one object and then try to recognize it. But then the fridge is, there are overlaps of the items. So, one of the hard things was that, are we going to try to recognize if only if 50% or more of the objects are showing up, or are we going to try to do it even only 30% are showing up, things like that. So those kind of things actually became a real hard problem. And so we had to come up with so the thing is that for now, we just had to collect a lot of data from our fridge itself. We couldn't really use the existing data much because typically it's just one item, associated with the labels. But now we have to collect our own and then tag our own to train it. Yeah, but we're still trying to solve it. It's not perfect yet, so it's evolving. Yes. Anybody interested in Bixby and how to enable that? Or yeah, so I think it's kind of so I think there are many ways. So what we ultimately want is that if you develop an application for Family Hub, you would definitely want to have voice enabled, right? So up to now, it was more of through the partnership. So we actually, the engineers from our side, they help the partners to enable the voice capability. So if you have an app that's running on the Family Hub, the engineers from our side try to enable the voice interaction part. But then because now we are opening up this whole ecosystem, the Bixby ecosystem, now you will be able to have more control, right? And then train it and then make all those, define all those actions, on your own and then make it more rich experience for your end user. So instead of just relying Samsung to actually develop what kind of, voice interaction your app should be able to do, once it's deployed on Samsung platform, now you will have more control. So I think this will be I'm very excited for that. Okay, so I think if there is no more question, thank you everybody for coming to my session.